Guiding visitors with dogs to make informed choices about where to go and what to do can support effective woodland management while improving the experience for visitors, their dogs, other users and wildlife. Today we're exploring a few top tips and management options that you might find useful. We're here in Bellhurst Wood in East Sussex. We have brought together David Rossney, a trustee of the woodland, and Stephen Jenkinson, an expert in managing dog walking in woodlands and the countryside. Together, they'll be taking a walk around the woodland to see where small changes can be made to help support visitors, dog walkers and wildlife. Let's see how they get on.
Thanks for inviting me along here today, David.
It's a pleasure.
This is just wonderful. Can you just give me an introduction about how you're involved in here and what we're looking at?
We're standing in Bellhurst Wood, which is one of the woods that the Bellhurst Nature Conservation Trust owns, and I'm one of 6 trustees. This is ancient semi-natural woodland. It's really been managed as coppice with standards occasionally over the thousands of years probably since it's been in existence, and it's a really valuable piece of conservation land, and we manage mainly for conservation, but we do so by managing as foresters. Mm-hmm. So I'm a forester. Other trustees are experts on wildlife.
Sure.
and have other skills, and so we sort of try and bring our skills together to manage our holding of ancient woodlands to keep them in as good heart as possible, really.
Yeah. No, I can see some of the work going along that you've done, but also it's somewhere that's really valued by the local community by the looks of the paths and the signs.
It certainly shows the signs of being busy.
Yeah.
And you know, we have an issue with lots of people coming, and the paths get wet in the winter, and so sometimes people make other paths.
Yeah.
We have a lot of dog walkers who come, and you know, the evidence of that is now visible.
Yeah. No, and it's, on one hand, I always find it's great to see people out and about with their dogs, but not everybody's responsible, and sometimes, you know, that can be a challenge for foresters like yourself.
It is, and it's really trying to find enough space for the wildlife to manage as the people and their dogs move in greater numbers.
Okay.
And so that we find is our biggest issue within the trust at the moment, is keeping the wildlife in good heart.
No, I get that. And I mean, what interests me is these places, particularly near communities, how do we make really good places for people and nature? So let's maybe take a walk and you can show me some of the challenges that you're having.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. It's been great to see some more of the woodland, David.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the interactions between dogs and wildlife that you'd actually like to change.
Well, our main concern is just simply disturbance of ground nesting birds, dormice, woodcock in the winter that are being flushed by dogs. So it's really a case of just dogs disturbing the wildlife.
Yeah. And what have you tried in the past to try and reduce those interactions?
We've tried putting signs up on some of our woods to say dogs must be kept on leads, and we sometimes try and confine people to the paths, because if the paths get wet, people want to make new paths.
Sure.
And so sometimes we lay dead hedges and live hedges along the edges of the paths to protect areas that we've just coppiced.
Right. And how well has that worked?
Sometimes it works. After a while, people will break through. Dogs will break through.
Yeah.
The dogs go first, perhaps, and then the people follow.
Yeah. I mean, one of the challenges about dogs on leads, and it's really understandable, like, well, why don't we just get people to keep their dogs on a lead? We know from a lot of research that for about 85% of dog owners, they're looking for off-lead exercise each time they go out. And in this setting, I think probably what's happening is a lot of them are thinking, well, we'll not walk where there's sheep and cows because we're concerned about that. And they think woodland is a better place to come. And in some ways it's maybe less worse, but there's still the sensitivities. From walking around the woodland with you, one of the things that's coming to mind is kind of zoning, in as much as the areas of woodland that are right near to where people live, there's going to be probably so much disturbance there, it's going to be really hard to change that. But then if there's areas where people don't go to so much, I'll be looking at managing your woodland so that it doesn't kind of displace people to those areas.
Yes.
But also if you've got a clear boundary to say this is like the sensitive zone, and please keep your dogs either on a lead, or what some people are doing is talking about pause on paths. So that actually, because the issue is the dogs going either side,
Yes.
and sometimes that can come across as a bit softer. But often people just don't realise. So that relationship with your visitors and giving them choices. But in essence, trying to stop off-lead exercise everywhere is a really big challenge when you've got established access patterns.
Yes.
So thinking about, starting about in a pragmatic way, where's the most sensitive bits, and starting that way and working with your visitors. So in essence, you're looking at how do we make places for people and nature.
Yes. And we want the regulars to be on our side and to
Sure.
be our eyes and ears, and to help us with other antisocial behaviour that can take place.
That's exactly
Sometimes.
it. So that way of trying to work for both and recognising their interests as well as yours can be a great way to kind of manage a wee bit better.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Let's go and have a look at some other bits and pieces.
Fine. So the poo bags, how do we stop poo bags hanging in bushes, lying around, sometimes not even that far from the dog bin? What is going on there with poo bags?
Yeah, it's the number one question I always get asked, and it's frustrating. The reasons behind it are quite varied. Sometimes people are maybe doing a circular walk with their dog and they think, oh, we're going to pick that up later and then go a different route. Sometimes we know it's some like a protest that's like, oh, I've done what I need to do, but you should provide a bin. In other situations, you can have woodland where traditionally they've had like a flick it off the path or stick and flick approach. And actually some people are sticking with stick and flick because they'd rather have the poo left on the ground than being left in a bag. Yeah. But depending on your type of habitat, that isn't great. I mean, the key thing I would say is that when people come into your woodland, be really clear about what you want them to do. So is it stick and flick? If you're asking people to pick up, be clear that that's everywhere and that's to protect other visitors and wildlife, and also let people know where the bins are, because people aren't always aware. I've spoken to people and there's been a bin just behind them and they haven't known. It's always one of those things that you always notice the people who don't pick up rather than the multitude that do.
Yes.
But yeah, it's one of the most frustrating things, and dog owners don't like it because in a way it gets all dog owners a bad name too. But being really clear about what you want and speaking to local dog walkers about it, that sometimes they can maybe know who's doing it.
Yeah.
So the three key things for me are for the start, being really clear what you want people to do. If it's picking up everywhere in your woodland, being really clear about that. Bins, if you do have them, it's really important to say where they are and put information on them to thank people for using them, and say that by picking up it's helping people and nature, because not picking up gets all dog owners a bad name. Yeah. And the third thing is I would chat to the local dog walkers, because they'll often have a good idea about where the problems are, and sometimes you can do like lots of signs and stuff, and actually a quiet word with one or two key people can actually be the best way forward, and the local dog walkers will generally know who that is and can give you some tips.
That's really helpful. No, thank you. That's good.
People are always asking, so it's great to talk about these things.
Yeah. So we're back at the entrance. Just wanted to ask, is this the best place to put signs, and how do I best deal with the public and their dogs?
Yeah. I mean, entrance points are a really important message to get those advice out about where you can go, what you can do, and making your visitors feel that they're welcome, and then that will help them look at other information, particularly in new visitors. The people who've come here for years probably wouldn't take too much in, but it's important there's clarity about what's wanted. Yeah. And in fact, this is an example from one woodland where it's asking that you're welcome to come here, but about keeping your dog into control, or things like always in sight. Yeah. These might not always be relevant to your woodland, but what I'd encourage you to do is look at things like maybe the countryside code or what's used elsewhere, and think what messages are relevant for here. And I mean, the key one is always about dog poo as well, and we've got the bin here. And if you've got infrastructure like this, it's always good to make best use of it. Sure. So even just something that says, thank you for using this bin. Yeah. And even if you've got space here to say something like, picking up and removing your dog's poos makes this woodland really good for wildlife. Something like that can be helpful. The other thing is we can see with a lot of paths here, And when you're planning where people go and what they do in your woodland, you can think that you just look at public rights of way, but actually I've brought with you, this is from the Strava website.
Yeah.
And it actually shows you that there's quite a wider network of routes people are using. And why this is quite important is that if you're looking at developing, say, sanctuary areas for wildlife, I would always say work with what you've got and say, well, if this is where people are going, let's look at the routes where people aren't. And then if that's an area you particularly want to make better for dormice or ground nesting birds or whatever, work with that. And the key thing about being clear about where people can go and what they can do is it actually helps them become good advocates for the woodland and actually benefit. I mean, do you see some benefits by having public access and
Yes,
walkers with dogs?
and when we start talking to individuals, whether they've got dogs or not, that's when things start to improve, and basically you make friends, and you make allies, and then those people sometimes are telling us about things that we need to know about when we're not on site, and that's really good. And so I think we probably ought to have some sort of a user group perhaps who feel
absolutely
that they want to work with us.
Yeah, sometimes when you look at some of these friends of different woodlands groups, a large proportion of them are dog walkers because they use them every day, come rain or shine.
Regular, aren't they? Yeah.
Absolutely, and they can sense when there's something different. And that's why whether you're doing signage or speaking to people on site, thinking about how do we build a good relationship to these communities nearby that love our woodlands, so that we can promote the good things about dog walking because we know it's good for people's physical and mental health, but also minimise the problems for wildlife and other people. And that's kind of the sweet spot where I'd encourage you to be.
Sure. Yes.
So you've got some ideas to go away with then from today?
So. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, and it's lovely to share it with you, and I'm hoping that the guidance, now that it's online, will help other people like you who are passionate about their woodlands and want people to visit, but sometimes it's like, how do we do the right thing, or how do
right.
Yes.
Yeah. No, good.
Thank you very much for your
Really
time.
nice to meet
Lovely
you.
to meet you, David.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We hope you found this useful and can see how you might apply it to your own woodlands. For more information, please visit our .gov.uk pages.